Here's a question. Now, I'm sure that we all are in agreement that Penn State is going to be Penn State when it comes to the NCAA tournament, and they're going to win another one. But two-part question: who fills up those next three, two, three, and four? And does Penn State break another record? What are your guys' thoughts? Do they break their own record? I should say. Thoughts on that?
I've got a
I
couple Penn State dudes in here winning championships. Um, and it's probably safe to assume a lot of those other weights you're gonna, I mean, really the only weight class they have that's kind of in question, I would think, would be 197 with Josh Barr. And I think that's just basically because Josh Barr, like I referenced earlier with Miles Amin, doesn't really weigh 197 pounds. He's still an excellent wrestler and is going to be a factor, probably a qualifier certainly. But other than that, I mean, you bump was that Kasak up to 57. Obviously, Van Ness coming back at 49. We know what Bo Bartlett is. We've talked about Lillidahl and what he's potentially going to be able to do. And then you got Strachey, Kirkfleet, Levi Haynes. Like they'll be fine. They now that I'm talking this out loud, they might very well break their own record.
Very. I mean, it's not like it's out of the question. I
They have
mean,
less questions this year than they did last year.
yes, certainly, and and they get more points at 125 this year because Lillidahl is he's legit. Lillidahl is their first really big 125-pound recruit since Nick Suriano. They haven't had a guy at 125 since Nick Suriano was in that weight class. Before that, it was who?
Nico.
Nico,
Megaludus, yeah.
Yeah, Megaludus, yeah.
and
How
that's
does
it.
Lillidahl feel about Handsome Tuesdays?
I'm sure he goes for a good looking Monday. He's not much of a handsome Tuesday guy. Um, but no, I think that they do break their record. It's it's tough, but I think they I think they get it done. Um, so yeah, that's my thought. Do you, Robbie, Austin, any? Do you think that they break it, and if they don't, how close do they get?
Based on my picks, I don't have them breaking it because I have Starachi and Kirkfleet losing. So if we're going off of my picks, they don't break it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, in reality, both of those guys are highly likely to be at least finalists, if not national champs. So it's certainly not out of the range of possibility for them to do it again. But I think let's revisit this one as well. But I don't think they do.
Yeah, I don't think they break it. I just don't see enough bonus points like they used to do back with David Taylor, Ed Ruth, and those guys were pinning guys, and Rutherford and Nolf were in there as well. Um, I think they might have 10 All-Americans, but I don't think they'll all. I don't think that it might. I don't think it'll be enough to break the record. But maybe that's stupid. I don't know.
I don't even know if they can do 10 All-Americans, like Conch said in 97. I mean, that's a tough weight, and it's going to be a big stretch for him to break through.
I mean, for how wide open that weight class is, though, too, that
Fair.
could benefit them as well. I don't know. We'll have to revisit that one.
Yeah, I mean, and when you look at their lineup, right? Like at least what we think is going to be their lineup, because we don't know until it happens. But we think it's Lillidahl at 25, Braden Davis at 33. What is it? Van Ness at or no, excuse me, Bo Bartlett
Bartlett.
at 41. Van Ness like they have the horses to have guys on the podium at every single weight class. Like, I mean, just think about what Kasich did last year. Now he's going to be up at 57. Like, very possible for him to do it again. And I think if you looked up and down the lineup outside of obviously Barr at 97, who hasn't been in the lineup before, when you look at it, you're like, okay, can Kasich do it again? Being up at weight, like, can this happen? Right. So I think even last year, when you looked at it, he was kind of the guy that you were like, I don't think that they get it done with Kasich. And he did, right? Because Braden Davis was riding high. Everybody was like, oh, the Penn State 125 curse is probably over. And I mean, he didn't, he came up short. and Kasich was like, "No, I'm gonna do what I do." Right. So it's just very different. But when you look at their lineup, and they don't even have this year's roster up on their website just yet, so you don't even know who is on their who's redshirt, who's doing this, who's doing that, and you're not going to get that until the first actual competition when all that stuff comes out. I don't even think that there's. I think their schedule's up though, even though we do have it, but yeah, like I don't think it's out of the question to say that they can break their record with the firepower that they have. Now, the other part of that was we're always talking about who's fighting for second. Who are these teams that you guys see can be second, third, fourth, and bring home a trophy next year? I think I already said it. I think Nebraska brings home a trophy. They're certainly in the mix. And I'd have to do a little bit more digging into like other conferences, as we're kind of neck deep in doing our preview stuff. But so far for me, I think that the firepower that Nebraska as well as Minnesota have, they're gonna be in that top four, top five for me. With all the depth that they have. I think Minnesota has a ranked guy at just about every single weight, including Illinois has a ranked guy at every single weight, except for one as well. So like there's a lot of firepower coming out of the Big Ten from what I'm seeing doing all of these previews and stuff. But the two teams for me that I'm like, I think they can be fighting for a trophy at the end of the year is Minnesota and Nebraska. Um, your guys' thoughts? Who else do you see jumping into that mix in the race for second? Obviously, Iowa's normally in there, and
Mhm.
they're kind of the usual suspects. But like, I think Nebraska and Minnesota are some teams that can you know kind of jump the line a little bit.
I'm just going to throw these two out there, and I'm kind of looking at, all right, well, what teams are going to have some guys, make the finals based on our conversation here, right? And some big point scorers. Cornell certainly has that. We talked about Julian Ramirez and getting on the podium. We talked about Shapiro and what he's able to do. They've got studs up and down their lineup. Ohio State's another one of those teams where, if you get Mendez winning another championship and you get Feldman in the finals or something like that, I mean, those are, pair that with the rest of their roster, they're right there as well. So those are just, I mean, yeah, then you've got the Oklahoma States and the Iowas and all those guys. But I think that if everything goes right for them, those are two teams that could absolutely walk away with a trophy.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. Robbie, Austin, any thoughts on who can jump in there and claim a trophy? I mean, obviously Iowa State did it last year. They had to
Mhm.
wait to get the damn trophy, which is disgusting. But what other teams do you guys see placing?
I mean, I think the Hokies and the Wolfpack could both break through.
Mm-hmm.
Um, kind of how everything it shakes out with the number of All Americans they get, and if they are able to get finalists and champs again, I think they're both certainly in contention. I think Nebraska is right. I think Oklahoma State, Iowa was the always the top there, but I think ACC wise, Virginia Tech and NC State are both very much in the mix.
Yeah, I like Claunch saying Cornell. It's just they
Yep.
lost a lot of firepower last year with Cardenas now gone, Vito graduated, but Mara Shapiro stepped up last year as a freshman. They got a few guys coming in that are freshmen that could maybe replicate that. If they get hot at the end of the year, go on a run. Uh, I don't see them being a trophy, but I think Cornell could be in that mix if some of those guys catch fire and get hot. But yeah, I agree with Nebraska, NC State. Um, Love to see Oklahoma State get back in trophy contention as well.
Yeah. Yeah, that as we were talking, I was just like, I wonder what it brought me to kind of like another thought. And I know we didn't have this question on the doc either, but